What's good? VenomousStare back with StarCraft 2 action. This time it's not pro gamers, but an inter-house clan match between me up here in the top, out now Savagewood, and I'm going to have to break the barrier and refer to myself in the third person for the duration of this cast, because it gets really weird if I'm constantly saying I. And my opponent, see, I just did it again. Sorry guys, you're going to have to bear with the first and third person like it's Fight Club. So ARamp is my opponent here, my dear real-life friend. Now ARamp is significantly lower ranked in 1v1 ladder than I am, but before we play 2v2 matches together, we play a warm-up 1v1, and some of the 1v1s are actually kind of cutesy, and I wanted to just kind of get a record of these 1v1s and have them up on the internet since StarCraft 2 replays kind of just get deleted. This is an interesting replay though, where I go for some cute harassment tactics. A lot of times with these private match custom games you can do some stuff that you really normally wouldn't want to do on ladder and risk your points. You can try some new cool stuff out. We see ARamp here is going for a Speedling Expand. This is a bit of an old build, but very safe. Hard counters Cannon Rush, hard counters lots of aggression like proxy gates and stuff. And we see Savagewood, he's going to make a proxy pylon right out on the corner of the map. Now let's talk about Vanny Research Station. This is a very good map for Protoss. There's a pocket base, which if you don't know what a pocket base is, you have your main here, right? You see the one ramp that leads out to the rest of the map. Well, a pocket base is essentially where you have another ramp in your main that leads to a base that is only accessible by air or through your main. So essentially you don't have to take a risk when you expand, it's like a free base. And this is good for Protoss and Terran especially. Now the layman might think, well Zerg always wants to fast expand, why isn't it best for Zerg? As we see ARamp trying to do a little bit of blocking there to get this probe, and Savagewood is trying to get off creep here, but he's going to lose the probe. So good job there by ARamp. If you ever see a probe like that, and it has an opportunity where it comes up a ramp, you have a little window of time where it's not going to have vision of the high ground and you can get a couple of shots on it like that. So this map is good for Protoss because you don't really have to take a risk whenever you go out to expand. You don't have to worry about walling in, and the reason that the pocket base isn't as good for Zerg as you would think is because Zerg really wants to get their creep spread going. And in every single instance that involves the natural and then getting creep started from there and getting it just mapping out all the way to the north and the south and the west. Basically you want your creep to extend like little tendrils out on the map, and if you have a pocket base it essentially means that your initial creep tumors are delayed. But we do see here that ARamp made a very early creep tumor, so I love to see this. This is one way that you can combat the pocket base, is you can make an early creep tumor. We can see that ARamp also has an early queen here. I like to see that as well. Early queens are nice because if they go Stargate, it helps you with the harass. You know, if they go Warp Prism, it helps you with the harass, and you can get your creep spread popping. And if you take an early third, you don't have to wait for that creep tumor to spawn. And you can really hit a power spike there with those injects at the third base. And of course, if you want to continue to have a creep queen, you just make another one at your natural about the time that your third finishes, and then you use your creep queen at your third permanently, and then in about 15 seconds after the base finishes, your new creep queen should finish and you hotkey it. So ARamp here is going to venture forward here with some lings. He has speed of course, and he's going to deny the probe, trying to take a third, and Savagewood is just going to light up the photon overcharge. Now if you don't have a sentry, or you don't have, as we see Savagewood's gates just finished, if we go to units, he doesn't really have anything. He does have a worker lead. You don't want to be shy about throwing up photon overcharge. If you think the Zerg is going to pressure your front door and try to bust through, and you don't have the sentry, you don't have warp gate, and a unit is nowhere close, it's not like you have a robo right here or anything, just fire up that overcharge. It'll give you about 30 seconds to get what you need to do, and in this instance, that's having warp gate finish, having gates 2 through 4 go online, and a warp prism and zealot legs are started here for the Protoss player Savagewood. Now ARamp has the money to take a third and really should aim to do so. does have some nice creep spread extended out here. It looks as though he's made a couple Ravagers. After being delayed with Ling, Savagewood is trying to take this third base. He has double Forge coming in his main. Of course, about 4 gateways total. Now, it's very common for Protoss and Terran players to add a big swell of production once they get the third. We see with Terran players versus Zerg, this usually is barracks 6 through 10. Sometimes it's just 6 through 8, but usually it'll be 6 through 10 eventually. Of course, that extra, or that initial 3 barracks explosion is the one you usually think about. The same deal here kind of exists. Protoss players usually aim to get a bunch of gateways up to protect their third base and subsequently prevent run-bys. These forges really need to get popping. As Savagewood has a 4 sentry drop over here in a Warp Prism. Now ARamp is going to pressure here with Roach Ravager. Only 1 Immortal over here, and the Forge is still idle here. Now Templar, and by Templar I mean the infamous Adepts, are going to kill some creep spread here, but double Photon Overcharge being thrown down. Savagewood might be at risk of losing the space. Now we see the Adepts are on a shift A move with an Observer over them, so they are going to clear out some creep. The Mother Core will take some damage, but with a couple low Roaches and just a few Ravagers here, ARamp might be able to be pushed back. So Savagewood's going to go for a sentry drop here as this base is going to be saved. And he has a few force fields. There we go, force field on the ramp. And a shift A move, focusing the Queen. And Savagewood can really start to do work as he had Adepts at the front door as well to distract ARamp. A few Lings spawn here. Savagewood does kill him. Another sentry slips through. Savagewood desperately needs to force field. And a little bit sloppy Joe there as he throws up one a little bit late and subsequently has to throw up a few more not to lose all of his sentries, but then he warps in DTs as Savagewood walling off a ramp of the pocket base and then ravaging it with Dark Templar. Spore Crawlers are coming up here for ARamp, but it's too little too late because the attacking units quite simply were blocked off. And this is one thing about getting your ramp force fielded, is it kind of throws your macro off completely. If you get your ramp force fielded, you can't reinforce, save, or replenish any of your bases. And whenever you see it happen, it's hard to explain to a non-Zerg player. As we see the sentries are now out here as the Roaches come out. Savagewood very nicely picks them up without losing any for no reason. But whenever your ramp gets force fielded as Zerg, it's a very confunding sort of feeling where you just kind of see it. Now Savagewood's going to spring forward here with these sentries in a Warp Prism and the Observer and just pick off creep tumors. Now this is exceptionally annoying as we see Savagewood's third base is alive and kicking. But the crux of this issue is that the sentries can just throw down a couple force field to finish picking off the incredibly weak tumor, only 50 HP of course. And the sentries, because they have force field, aren't really at a whole lot of risk, and even though they don't have a whole lot of DPS, since you're only dealing with 50 HP, that's not a lot, and with the Warp Prism out, you can really just pick up and fly away at any time, at least until the Zerg gets Hydras. And we see Dark Templar blink, normal blink, and 2-2 is on the way for Savagewood. And he's going to continue to try to kill tumors here and force field the ramp. Now this is annoying because it prevents ARamp from saturating this base, it prevents ARamp from defending this base, it prevents ARamp from defending his tumors, and a couple more force fields go down, and we see that Queen kind of get caught up there like he's in bad I-35 traffic. Now the thing about those force fields is they don't have to be perfect, it's just a matter of getting the Queen and the Roaches at a safe enough away distance where you're not going to lose the sentry force. And we can see Savagewood has had Dark Templar tucked away in the corner of this base. This is a very common technique, especially if you do a sentry drop and then warp in units, Dark Templar. You hide them in the corner of the base out of the Zerg's vision as more tumors go down here. And this is very important because ARamp has lost creep spread around very vital areas of his base, and he's not going to be able to kill this without mutas or hydras or a lot of queens, because you see he has queens out here trying to spread creep, but it's actually very difficult because the queens don't have the DPS to solo out a Warp Prism, especially once the speed upgrade gets finished, as Savagewood is about to have 2-2, and he's kind of poked a hole in Rampy, aka ARamp's creep spread. Now ARamp has been diligently spreading throughout the game, perhaps spreading more than he's been spending his money. And that means, of course, that the creep spread still looks decent, but more gateways are starting up here for Savagewood. He's taken a gold base, which just finished. Now ARamp has a warp prism here, and he's in this position where you can see the assimilator, but if you're not paying super close attention, it's not like having the overload right over the base. Sometimes it's easier to miss. And he also has lings over this fourth. These DTs, of course, are still hanging out here. Now, on bases with extraordinarily large spaces, and here we're going to see the DTs again. So in main bases that are really big, you can hide DTs in the corner because the default creep spread that comes around to hatchery will not see it. And this is the kind of thing that you can do. The longer and longer you can hide these DTs away, the less likely they are to be ready for them. And of course, one of the best things you can do when you harass with Dark Templars is just harass with something else on the map. Now this is very light harassment. This is literally 3 sentries, an observer, and a warp prism killing creep tumors. But whenever you're losing bases to Dark Templar, as we see a shift move command and then an A move to avoid the spore that was located back here. This is one thing you really have to be wary of, as we see Savagewood finally losing 1 sentry, picks up the other 2 mercifully. And an observer comes over, but a macro hatch dies, and blink here for the DTs, as this is a very rare upgrade. But of course, without anything over here as far as vision goes, Savagewood is trapped. But what damage did he do to ARamp? He killed a base that was mining, including gas, and he killed a macro hatch. Now that pretty much cuts in half ARamp's macro and his production ability, because this base just finished and doesn't have a queen, and a macro hatch is almost ensured of getting injected, meaning that it's a more reliable source of larvae as opposed to these outside bases, which often forget to be hotkeyed, forget to be injected, and more importantly are at risk of being attacked. ARamp is looking to do a little bit of a move out here, but economically he's not doing very well compared to Savagewood. He's actually losing quite badly, and he's trying to get some ultras out here. But Savagewood has butchered the creep and harassed the east side of the map enough where ARamp is kind of a day late and a dollar short here. 4 cannons are up here. Savagewood is attempting to get even more pylons up here, as he has a nice money unit army of about 10 immortals, colossi, and power mortals. Now this is not a cheap army or a mobile army, but this army packs a fucking punch, as Aaron is going to move in here. ARamp crashing into the cannons, and what is Savagewood going to do? He's going to recall about 3/4 of his army, leave a couple of mortals and archons over there, and he's just going to decimate this force, as these roaches are severely out upgraded. If we go to the upgrade tab, 1 melee upgrade, 1 carapace upgrade for ARamp. The Protoss is at 2/2 with the shield to boot. He's got blink, he's got charge, he's got all 3 of the robo upgrades. Actually, he does not have thermal lance, which is a bit of a mistake. But that's alright. We're going to have to rewind a little bit. So, as that attack concluded and ARamp was retreating, some DTs came in here. And what are they going to do? They're going to kill the infestation pit. Now let's flip over to ARamp's vision. He's saying, oh shit, now he can see these DTs because of the spore from earlier in the game, but what is Savagewood going to do? He's going to blink on the south side of the Ultra Cavern and snipe it before Chitinous plating, and that's going to trigger ARamp to leave. So Savagewood using a warp prism full of sentries and some nice little DT harassment there to get the job done. If you enjoyed this custom game, I'm going to be doing more pro games in the future. I just wanted to get this one out for old time's sake. This is an old replay, by the way. Have a good one.